My name is Nikita Tolchinsky. I'm with Balance. I'm a housing counselor and also a presenter for a workshop with Balance. We're also lucky enough to have a lender with us, Josie Ramirez with First Citizens Bank. She is one of the approved lenders with the City of San Francisco for their first-time homebuyer program. We also have Catherine I with us with MOHCD, and Catherine's involved with all of the programs, and so she has a lot of experience. And so today we're going to basically introduce BMR ownership. There's no expectation for all of us to become experts and know all the details today. That'll come next if you decide to complete the education. So again, welcome everyone.
Para los que quieren escuchar en español, pueden ir a sus controles de reunión y hacer clic en interpretación, buscar español y luego silenciar el audio original.
你好，今日我哋嘅會議咧係有廣東話嘅呢個就係口譯嘅。如果你想今日嘅會議嘅講座中咧用廣東話嚟聽今日嘅會議咧，你可以點擊嗰個地球儀啦，然後點擊 interpretation 然後撳一撳中文，咁就可以用廣東話嚟聽今日嘅呢個會議啦。如果你淨係想聽口譯嘅語言嘅話咧，請點刪咗原始嘅呢個音頻就係cancel 呢個就係 mute original audio 就得㗎啦。
All right, and so to enable closed captioning, whether you're working from a computer or on your phone, we've posted the directions here. You want to go to the bottom tab of Zoom and find the Show Captions arrow to activate that, and then choose your language. If you don't see that, then you go to More and go to Show Captions there, turn that on and choose the language that works for you. So again, we have the screen up for you to follow that instruction. Also, we're going to have some time after the presentation today for some Q&A. So you'll be able to post some questions at the end under chat, and we have our panel here that will be able to respond. If you have any technical issues, please go ahead and post them under chat. We have representatives that will be able to assist with that.
Excuse me, Nick, the interpretation still hasn't been assigned, please.
Hi, Carol. Yes, we're working on that right now. As soon as we are able, we're on the call with Zoom, and as soon as we're able to, I'll send you a message in the chat. Sorry about that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Estamos esperando a que, por favor, pongan la interpretación para poder interpretarles.
Nick, just so everyone's on the same page, we're going to just take a brief moment for the interpreter channels to get started.
Sure.
Thank you.
Yeah.
apologies. While we're still working on interpretation, Nick, you can continue. And as soon as that's open, Carol and I'm sorry, our Cantonese interpreter can start.
Great. So a little bit of housekeeping. This is recorded for the HSF YouTube channel, so you'll be able to view that at a later period. Please remain on mute, and then we'll be able to respond to your questions at the end. Again, the questions will be posted in chat, so you'll have time to do that. Like I said, if you have any technical issues, please post them either under chat or you also have an email address here, marianne@homeownershipsf.org. So who is Homeownership SF? Well, Homeownership SF is a housing nonprofit agency in San Francisco that's basically the umbrella and the liaison between 5 nonprofit counseling agencies in San Francisco. I happen to work with Balance, but there's also Asian Inc., SF LGBT Center, Meta, and SFHDC. So we are all nonprofit housing agencies in San Francisco. We offer different services. We offer different opportunities for workshops and different options for counseling. So if you see these names, you'll be familiar with who we are. At Balance, we posted here on this slide our contact information. So obviously our phone number and website. We also list our services here. So we offer homeownership counseling, not only for first-time home buyers, but for current homeowners as well. So if current homeowners are looking to, they have questions or issues, possibly facing financial hardship or looking at refinancing, we have counseling services for that. Rental counseling, we work with Mayor of Housing with the below market rate program and other opportunities in San Francisco, so we can assist with that. Budgeting and also evaluating your debt. We always say you don't have to be ready to buy now for us to help you. We'll put an action plan together to get you to where you need to be. We'll also assist you with reviewing your credit report and student loan counseling as well. So you have the services here to at least show you what Balance offers. So we'd like to welcome a guest presenter from Mayor of Housing, Catherine. She's has a lot of experience, a lot of information. So we're really fortunate to have her join us today. So Catherine, welcome.
Thank you, Nick. Good evening, everyone. My name is Catherine Hai, and I'm the Homeownership Program Manager at the Mayor's Office of Housing and Community Development. I help oversee our home ownership programs that we have available for both below market rate and market rate transactions. Tonight, we're going to go over what is a BMR unit or a below market rate unit. Below market rate units are units that are priced to be affordable for qualifying households. These are typically low to middle income households. The majority of the units are typically condominiums. We have a restriction on the initial sales price and the resale price of the BMR units to ensure that the prices remain affordable to low to moderate income households. And so based on the restrictions that we have on each of the units are permanently affordable home ownership. When you sell the units will be priced to be affordable for the next buyer, so that so that we can continue this opportunity for future applicants that wish to participate in our program. Eligibility requirements. In order for you to be eligible to apply for our program, you must be a first-time home buyer. What we mean by first-time home buyer is that you cannot have any ownership interest in a residential property within the last 3 years. You need to reside in the BMR unit as your primary residence. We do not allow you to rent out the unit, so renting out any portion of the unit or a parking space associated to the BMR unit is not allowed. the household size requirement is that it must be at least one person per bedroom for the unit. So if you're applying for a 1-bedroom unit, you need to have 1-person household. If you're applying for a 2-bedroom unit, you need to have at least 2 people in your household. The eligibility requirements are subject to income limits designated for each BMR unit, and there may be an asset test associated with the income calculation, depending on the amount of assets you have in your account. Prior to applying or submitting a lottery application for a BMR unit, you must complete the 10-hour first-time homebuyer education and obtain a pre-approval letter from a MUCD-approved lender. On this page, you'll see a summary of the income limits for 2024 for a 1-person, 2-person, 3-persons, or 4-person household based off of the typical income limit restrictions for the BMR units that are currently in our portfolio. And so if you're a household of, if you're a single person household at 80% AMI, you can, to be eligible for the unit, your income cannot exceed $83,900. And then at 100% AMI, it cannot exceed $104,900. We actually do have some projects that go up to as high as 150% AMI. And so for those are for higher income earners, and so the maximum income for a 1-person household would be $157,350. And as you can see, the household size, as your household size increases, the income limit also increases. BMR prices. BMR units are priced to be affordable based off of a designated AMI. So at the time that the units are initially built, there will be a designation with regards to what the maximum income limit is that an applicant would need to have in order to qualify for the unit. These restrictions are placed on the unit before we, at the time of development. Typically, the sales price of the BMR units range from $300,000 to $500,000. We do have some units that are priced below $300,000, and there are units that are priced above $500,000. The monthly HOA dues, property taxes, and homeowners insurance are used in calculating the sales price of the BMR unit, because we when we price the unit, we want to ensure that it's affordable to the household. We do take into consideration what the total monthly housing payment is in determining the sales price for the unit itself. For the BMR units, we have lottery preferences. Each preference category allows you to have a priority in the lottery. The first preference, or the preference that has the highest priority, would be a certificate of preference. These are for people who were displaced in the 1960s due to redevelopment policies by the former San Francisco Redevelopment Agency. They will have access to 100% of the available units in any project. The second highest preference priority would be given to displaced tenants. These are people who were displaced by Ellis Act, owner move-in evictions, or units that are facing expiring affordability restrictions. Typically, the displaced tenant housing preference will be based off of 20% of the total units available in that project, and it only applies to projects that have 5 or more BMR units in that project. The next preference is for the neighborhood resident housing preference. This only applies to new developments, and typically 40% of the total units are set aside for people who live within a half-mile radius of the development that is being developed at this time. The live or work housing preference applies to all units available in the project, and these are for people who are currently living or working in San Francisco. And then the last preference, or no preference at all, would be general lottery. Under general lottery, this is for people who do not have any priority based off of the certificate of preference, displacement housing preference, or your neighborhood resident housing preference, or the live or work in San Francisco preference. But they want to be able to apply for a unit and move to San Francisco. They would be the last applicants to be reviewed on the lottery list. The veterans priority is not actually a preference, but it's actually a priority within each preference category that we went over earlier. Within the, if you are a veteran and you are able, or someone in your household is a veteran, you would need to provide documentation to support that you are a veteran of the US military. And then you have to qualify for at least one of the housing preferences. And so what happens with the veterans priority is that at the time of the lottery, if you are a veteran, you will be ranked, receive the highest ranking in that preference category before any other applicants that fall within that preference category. How do I find a BMR unit? So all our units are posted on our website, Dahlia. To apply for the unit, you would go to our website, which is www.housing.sfgov.org. From there, you would click on the buy button. And once you click on the buy button, you would be able to see a list of BMR units that are currently available for sale that you can submit a lottery application for. If you would like to learn or be alerted of any new listings, you can click on sign up today, and then that will allow you to sign up for email alerts to be notified whenever a new listing is posted on our website. Don't miss a listing. And as we went over, you can click over the sign up for email housing alerts by clicking on the sign up today, and then that will allow you to enter your information and receive email alerts for any BMR units that become available. On the same page, we actually have first come first serve listings near the bottom of the page. These are actually lottery listings that or BMR listings that went through the lottery process, but we were not able to find an eligible buyer. And because of that, we list the units as first come first serve for interested applicants to submit an application to us for review to be able to purchase the unit. With first come first serve, there's no lottery preference. Applications will be reviewed in the order they are received. First come first serve listings. These are listings that are former BMR listings that need more applicants. There are no lottery preferences. They do apply to both new sale projects and resale BMR units at this time, and we may allow a higher income limit. So applicants who have higher income that are earning up to 150% AMI may be eligible to apply for all of these units. And then some of these units, the prices may be negotiable. So you may be able to try to negotiate the sales price with the seller with regards to the BMR unit. Steps to apply. And so to be eligible to apply for our lottery application, you must first complete the first time homebuyer education program, which is the program orientation, 6 hours of workshops plus 2 hours of individual counseling. You must obtain a pre-approval letter from a MoCD approved lender. And then once you have items 1 and 2, you will go to our website and then click on the listing that you're interested in and hit the apply now to submit a lottery application for the listing. The education requirement is 2 hours of the MoCD homebuyer education orientation. This is to go over our a basic overview of our program rules and eligibility requirements, 6 hours of first-time homebuyer workshops, 2 hours of individual counseling session. That will be the total 10 hours of homebuyer education. To sign up for the classes, you can visit the homeownershipsf.org/homebuyers website to sign up for the workshops. And I would like to now welcome our guest presenter, Josie Ramirez from First Citizens Bank.
Hello,
Actually,
everyone.
before Josie, before you go, can we just make an announcement really quickly and then we'll turn it back over to you?
Sure.
Hi, so unfortunately, due to some Zoom technical difficulties, we were unable to open the interpretation channels. However, we really apologize for the inconvenience, and after the recording goes out, we will try our best to get those transcribed so that any folks that were seeking to get that interpretation can get their transcription available. So sorry about that again, and sorry for the quick message, but thanks everyone. Back to you, Josie.
All right. Thank you, everyone, and good evening. We appreciate you making time to join us for this informational workshop. I've had the pleasure of working with MOHCD and Homeownership SF and its member housing counseling agencies like NIC for over 12 years now. And in general, I've been a lender providing affordable financing for over 25 years. Currently, I manage a team of approved lenders at First Citizens Bank. Next slide, please. So as noted on this slide, MOHCD has a list of approved lenders that Kat just mentioned. So once you've finished your homebuyer education course and one-on-one counseling, that's when you're ready to get pre-approved, okay? Here's the link where you would find the list of approved lenders, and I just encourage you to not deviate from that, because you'd have to make sure that your pre-approval letter is valid by using one of the pre-approved lenders. And I'm proud to note that First Citizens Bank has several loan officers on the list, one of which speaks Cantonese and Mandarin, and myself speak Spanish if those services are needed. Okay. Next slide, please. So here's a list of all the documents that both lenders and MOHCD are going to require. But just before we go through them all, I just want to note that there's a difference between getting pre-approved versus pre-qualified. So you want to make sure that when you're talking with one of the lenders, that you're, making sure that you inform them that you need a pre-approval letter, not a pre-qual letter. And the difference is for pre-approvals, lenders have to review and verify all of your financial documents versus with pre-qualifications. Most of the stuff is prevented. Okay, like someone's asking me to speak. Okay, I'm going to speak louder. Sorry about that. So with pre-quals, most of the time it's just verbal information that the applicant is providing versus documented financial. Here's the list. Typically, lenders and MOHCD require 3 years of federal income tax returns. We do not need the state tax returns, so please don't bother in uploading those. We do also require 3 consecutive and most recent months of bank statements. For all assets, I'll make sure to stress, including retirement accounts. We also need 3 consecutive and most recent pay stubs, or 4 if you get paid weekly, because we need enough to cover a full month period. And also documentation of all other income and assets. For instance, if you receive Social Security or disability or any type of other income other than wages, we will need documentation for that as well. Current lease and proof of last 3 months rent paid. Well, honestly, that depends on each lender. Possibly MOHCD requires this. Each lender may or may not. We do not require this, but MOHCD may require that. So if you are planning to receive a gift, at pre-approval, we will ask you for that information and to provide us a gift letter filled out by your donor, or the gift letter, and then the donor's bank statement to support that they have sufficient funds to give to you. I'd like to just share a little tip with you. As you start your journey and process to get pre-approved and then subsequently apply to MOHCD, I encourage you to create a folder and start saving all of your updated and recent pay stubs and bank statements and everything that you provide lenders and MOHCD, because throughout this process, we're going to continue to ask you for the most recent version of those. So it's always helpful to have that available. Let's see. Yeah. Move on to the next.
Josie, sorry to pop in real quick. There was a person in the chat that asked if you could either speak up a little more, or there's a way you could get closer to your microphone. I'm not sure. Your audio is a little low. If you're able to. Okay, thank you.
I'm not sure this will matter, but can you hear me better now? Hello?
A little bit. Yeah, a little bit.
I'm sorry. Yeah. I was having trouble earlier as well, so I apologize. I
No
will try
problem.
to speak louder, okay?
Perfect. Thank you, Josie.
Uh-huh. So once the lender has received your loan application and all your financial documents, that's when we can start crunching numbers and determining the most important question of all is, how much can I afford? How much can you pre-approve me for, right? So each lender, it's important to understand each lender has their own underwriting guidelines per loan program. So they use the guidelines within each program to determine how much you can afford. The primary thing they're looking at in determining how much you can afford is what's called DTIs, or debt to income ratios. They will determine how much you can receive. There's actually two main types of debt to income ratios. The first one is called the housing cost ratio, and then the second one is called the back end ratio. Both are important. And again, each lender has their maximums, and MOHCD has sometimes their minimum and maximum requirements. So that's used in calculating your debt to income ratio. The first one, the housing ratio, is just as the name implies, anything related to the housing cost divided by your gross income is going to be the housing cost ratio. And the other one, the back end ratio, is going to be all the housing cost, which includes loan amount, payment, the principal, interest payment, the property taxes, the insurance, the HOA dues, and MI if your loan requires it, divided by your gross income. That's the housing cost, or ratio, DTI. If we add all the other monthly payments that you have on your credit report to your housing costs, divide that by your gross monthly income, that's called your back end ratio, and our DTI, debt to income ratio. And really what we try to do is back you in to that number so that we can try to maximize your purchase price. Of course, making sure we run that by you, show you your options, and let you know if that's something you're comfortable with. what's on paper and what you take home is two different things, right? So we want to make sure everyone is comfortable with that. Last, you should know that a pre-approval is not a guarantee that you're going to get a final loan approval. Okay, that is just based on here and now at this moment in time, based on today's circumstances you've presented to us and information, we are able to issue you a pre-approval. At the time you enter into a purchase contract, we'll run the numbers again. Rates, as you know, change every day. So your income may change, your debt may change. Again, another tip, as you start your journey to home ownership, I encourage you not to take on any new debt. If you got a raise, that's wonderful, but still you need to be communicating with your lender and letting them know what, if any, changes have taken place. All right, next slide. So a pre-approval letter will note how much the lender has determined you can afford, okay? Most pre-approval letters are good for up to 120 days and can be renewed if they expire or are soon to expire. So in a rising interest rate environment like we are now, it's important for you, like I said, to stay in communication with your lender so that, you know, if we pre-approved you, let's say at 6.5%, but by the time you enter purchase contract, rates are over 7%, well then, yeah, we could have a problem at that time. So you want to make sure that you're communicating with your lender, and if there's any changes to let them know, okay? Let's see, down payment assistance may be available on an as-needed basis. The Mayor's Office of Housing offers the BMR DALP. That is a need-based down payment assistance. If you qualify without it, then there's no need, and therefore you would not receive that assistance. But there are other programs available that you may be qualified for based on your income and are not need-based. So we're happy to offer you those options as well. Next page, please. Oh, is this mine to cover, or it says MOHCD on this one? I'm not sure. Kat?
This one is still yours.
Oh, okay. So with MOHCD, there are resale restrictions, right? Like with any other type of below market rate program. So because of that, the price at the time you would like to sell will be calculated by MOHCD, and we would, or MOHCD is expected for you to maintain home in the good condition. So when it resells, you know, you can get the maximum purchase resale price. It will be sold through the lottery, just like, you know, you purchased yours. There's a high demand for BMR, so the most equitable and fair way is to hold lotteries. And please know that just because there's limited equity, it doesn't mean that there's no equity. You know, there is typically profit involved when you sell your home. Your children may be able to inherit the right to own and occupy your property if they meet the program's qualifications at the time. And then heirs must sell their BMR through the MOHCD office if they don't qualify, but would still receive the sale proceeds. Next slide. And yes, I mean, I would encourage you always to stay in touch with your counselor as well. Counselors provide a lot of support services. like translation and language barrier needs. They also help fill out the application, you know, understanding what's required. Oftentimes, if your lender's not available, you might want to ask the counselor. You know, I would first check with your lender on documents that are needed, but you know, your counselor is always a good source of information and help as well. If you are disqualified for a mistake or oversight, please feel free to contact your counselor. And again, I would also, you know, stay in communication with your lender. There may be a misunderstanding, so you can, you know, appeal that decision. All right. I think that's it.
Thank you. Thank you, Josie. Really appreciate it. So a couple of points I want to go back to. Really important when Catherine discussed the education requirement. That's going to be the next step for most of you. For those of you that decide to move forward with completing your education, there's 3 steps, 10 hours total. So the 2-hour orientation can be completed with any agency, and then you'll choose one of the 5 agencies to complete your 6-hour workshop with. And then whichever counseling agency you do the workshop with, you need to complete the counseling session with them as well. So you want to do it in that order: orientation 2 hours, workshop 6 hours, and then counseling session at the end with the same agency that you completed the 6-hour workshop with. Okay. At Balance, we offer translation, and we have counselors that speak Cantonese, Mandarin, Spanish, and Russian. We can also use outside services if need be as well for interpretation. And other agencies have other languages they have access to as well. So yeah, and we are here as counselors to assist you through the application process. We'll stay in touch with you, follow up with you, explain certain documentation. So you'll be working as a team with your lender, mayor of housing, and also your counselor. If you are denied, the counselor can help you with putting together an appeal if you believe the city miscalculated or didn't interpret some of your financial information correctly. Okay. So if we can go to the next slide, please. Yeah, we encourage you to attend. We look forward to meeting you this Saturday at the fair, the resource fair, the help center. So we're excited. A lot of energy and resources go into the expo. So we do encourage you to show up for that. I think it'll be very, very helpful. And then, well, yeah, we want to definitely thank Catherine and Josie for offering a lot of information. Again, I just want to reiterate, today it was just an introduction to BMR ownership. Was not a lot of detail. There will be a lot more detail once you complete the 2-hour orientation. And the 2-hour orientation will also cover other programs offered by the city of San Francisco besides BMR's, and a lot more detail will be offered there. So this is just an introduction. I want to, again, thank Catherine and Josie for participating as well. If you can please complete the survey that's in front of you. We have the links and the languages here you see in front of you. So if you can offer some feedback on your experience with the presentation today, that would be appreciated. And this is a good time to post your questions as well. I think just Giselle will go over some of the questions and we'll address them.
Yeah, so we've had 2 questions in the chat. First one was during Josie's presentation. So maybe you could answer this one. It was from HG. Can you please clarify how retirement assets are considered for program eligibility if not a current source of income? You are under 59 and a half and not taking distributions.
Correct. Okay, I'd be happy to. So I want to just stress that there are lender guidelines and MOHCD guidelines, but typically for lenders, we can use retirement funds that are accessible during what they call hardships, times of hardship. And although it's not a hardship, but buying a home is typically an eligible withdrawal from a retirement account. And you don't have to withdraw the funds, but just showing us that you have funds available in case something happens, we could use those as reserves. So it helps you fulfill the reserve requirements for both programs. Does that make sense? Do you know what,
Thank
maybe
you,
I should
Jen.
explain what reserves are. So, so again, each loan program has its own underwriting criteria. Most of them, and MOHCD has what's called reserve requirements. 1 month of the full housing cost. Remember, I talked about the loan principal and interest, the taxes, the HOA due, and the insurance. All of that combined, it adds up to what they call housing cost, or PITI. And that is 1 month of PITI. So lenders will ask you to have either 2 months or 3 months of PITI, that total housing costs, and that will be 2 months of reserves, or 2 months or 3 months of reserves of your total housing costs. So for instance, if your total housing cost came out to be $2,000 a month, 2 months of reserves will be $2,000. 3 months of reserves would be $6,000. And you have to show that you have that amount of money left over after the transaction closes. It's called post-loan liquidity. So after the transaction closes, you would have access to those funds. Doesn't mean you have to withdraw them at the time of the loan. Just show that the funds are available. That's why I always ask clients to make sure they include their reserves, their retirement accounts as well.
Thank you, Josie. Next question, I'm not sure who it's addressed to, so anyone in the room who can answer this, please do. This question is from Nessa. If my parents currently own a BMR, will I automatically inherit the unit if I meet the program's qualifications at the time? What happens if they leave the unit for me in their will?
With regards to inheritance, if your parents left the property to you in the will, in order for you to be eligible to reside in the BMR unit, you would need to meet our first-time homebuyer requirement and the income limit restriction requirement to be eligible to reside in the unit. If you do not meet those requirements, you can sell the unit through our program, and then the proceeds from the sale will go to you.
Thank you, Catherine. Next question is for, again, anyone in the room who knows how to answer this. It's from Jafar Mijo. It's a 3-part question, so let me know if you need me to repeat this. First part is a HUD VASH voucher added to gross income? 2, what is the AMI percentage for a HUD VASH voucher holder? Sorry, 2-part question.
In our program, we do allow applicants who have a HUD VASH voucher to participate in the program. The amount of the subsidy that you are receiving from HUD will be considered in the income calculation, or the qualifying calculation for your household's income. And so whatever that amount is, we will multiply it by 12 to determine the annual amount that you're receiving, and that will be added to whatever wages you're currently earning at this time. With regards to AMI percentage, this depends on what your actual income is. So I cannot tell you what the AMI percentage is for your for your household. But if you have any questions, you can email your scenario directly to me or contact me directly, and I can go over that information with you.
I'll just add that as the lender, we also included as your income, not an offset to the actual payment, not like a credit to the payment, but it's added to income.
Thank you, everyone. Next question is from Susan. If you want to use retirement accounts for part of the down payment, do you have to withdraw the money before loan approval and or application to the lottery?
No, we don't require you to provide proof of withdrawal from your retirement account. We actually do not encourage you to withdraw funds from your retirement account because for our program to purchase a BMR unit, we have a down payment assistance loan program that will help supplement some of the needs that you may have to be eligible to purchase a BMR unit. The minimum down payment requirement to purchase a BMR unit is just 3% of the sales price of the unit. So if you have 3% of the sales price, or you're able to get a gift for the 3%, then we may be able to help supplement up to 20% of the difference in down payment assistance to help you purchase the unit. With regards to the withdrawal of the money, you would probably want to hold off on doing that if that's your last resort until you're actually conditionally approved and you're in contract to purchase a unit, and it's time for you to obtain that loan to for your final approval.
I would just add that from a lender's perspective, you would not, we also encourage you not to withdraw unless it's your last resort. You could possibly take a loan out against your funds if, again, that's a last resort. Yeah, we, at the time of pre-approval, you would just let your lender know, or they'll probably ask you if they see that there's insufficient funds after we've exhausted every source of down payment assistance and there's still a shortage to get your DTIs to work. But again, it's not expected for you to withdraw at the time of pre-approval. Surely at the time you enter contract and get conditionally approved, that's when we would guide you to say, okay, it's probably time, if that's what you need to do, contact your administrator and find out how long, what are the terms and the conditions of either taking out a withdrawal versus a loan.
Thank you. Next question. Hi, what are the maximum asset limits for the program?
For the BMR program, to purchase a BMR unit, there is no maximum limit on the amount of assets you can have in your account at the time of application. So, but whatever amount of liquid assets that you have may be subject to an asset test, meaning that we may take a portion of that asset and multiply it by 10% to add it to your total household's income when we review your application to determine eligibility. If you are seeking down payment assistance from the city, we will limit the amount of assets you can retain in your account after the purchase of the property, which is $15,000 or 3 months of reserves, whichever is less. A stock portfolio will be considered as liquid assets. And we may include it in the income from asset test calculation, depending on the balance. Typically, the income from asset test calculation is we would exclude the first $60,000 of the total assets in your account, or 20% of the down payment amount, whichever is higher. And then whatever the remaining balance is will be subject to a 10% calculation.
Thank you, Catherine. Also, are there deadlines for each part of the education?
Yeah, I can touch on that. You want to complete all 3 steps within 12-month period for the certificate to be valid. So all 10 hours have to be completed within a 12-month window. All right. Are there any other questions? Okay, looks like we've taken care of the questions. Again, we encourage you to please complete the survey that you see on the screen. If you can copy and paste the link into your browser and complete that, that would be very helpful. Huge thank you to all the participants today. Homeownership SF, thank you for hosting and setting these workshops for all the interested participants and potential home buyers. Again, we look forward to seeing you at the expo this Saturday.
Thank you for having us, or, inviting me.
Thank you. So hopefully you guys know your next steps to start the education, and then we'll walk you through that process as counselors. So again,
Sorry to interrupt, Nick. There's one last question right before we head out from Susan. If the first 8 hours were completed last June and counseling is completed this month, how long is the certificate good for?
so what you want to do is reach out to your agency or your counselor where you completed the workshop so they can verify your dates, because there are certain restrictions on how much time can go by. So I don't want to give you a specific response. You want to take a look at your exact dates between your orientation and workshops with the agency where you completed it. So contact them and have them answer that for you. Okay. All right. Is there anything else?
See you Saturday.
That's right. And thank you, Stephanie, for posting the address. It is at 1520 Oakdale Avenue. Okay. For those of you that don't have that information, that's where it will be. A lot of great presenters, classes, workshops, resources. A lot of your questions will be answered there. All right. So if there are no other questions, Giselle, do we have anything else we want to discuss before we close up?
No, that's all. Thank you for being here and see you all Saturday.
Thank you all. Have a good night.